So, nice memories about Kevin. Um, I'll never forget the time. I forget whose basement we were in. I want to say Rick Battles. But we found this plexiglass bird cage. I mean, no bigger than 4.5 by 4.5 by like 5. With a window, only like 2 feet long and 1.5 wide. Like, I'm going to get in that thing. And sure enough, he did. And I have a picture of it somewhere. I just need to find it. But Kevin would just make you laugh every time that you were around him. And he'll be missed.
Hi, this is Stephanie. Gosh, I knew Kevin all through high school. And we dated for a few months in high school. And for our 1-month anniversary, he was very romantic, like to do big gestures. And I woke up in the morning and he had collaborated with my brother Vince to set up a whole day for me where I found Rose in different places throughout the entire day for our 1-month anniversary. And at the end of the night, when I got home from whatever outing we did for our anniversary, I came home to one more rose and this note from Kevin that said, "Count the roses, happy anniversary, sweet dreams, Kevin." Because he had gotten me 22 roses, which was my favorite number. So very, very sweet of him.
Hey, Connor family, I love you guys. And I didn't have a very good recollection of this story until Annie helped me out. But I do remember now, and I do apologize for any heartache that I may have caused.
Okay, alright, okay, so let me interject. So hi, I'm Andy. So what Lauren is referencing is when we all got in some very slight trouble with the police at a hotel. And I remember this really well. Lauren didn't remember. At first she was like...
Officer Whitaker. No, I do remember.
Yeah, so you remember the name of the cop. But yeah, at first Lauren was like, the police thing didn't have anything to do with me. I just wanted to apologize for any misunderstanding. But I remember vividly because... It was when I was in a band with Kevin, and he was grounded after this debacle, and so he couldn't come to band practice. It was like kind of a big deal. And so what had happened was, I believe it was your birthday, and we had just gone out to this hotel, and it was actually, the reason that I think this is an okay story to tell is it was actually very innocent, because we weren't having a really... crazy
too
party
ratty
in the
of
sense.
a time, yeah.
We weren't like drinking heavily or anything like that. I think we had some wine and like, you know, most of us were probably under 18, but you know, it wasn't excessive. We weren't taking shots. There's nothing irresponsible going on.
I wasn't 21.
Yeah, well, nobody was. I mean, most of us were under 18. But what happened was we decided to build a fort out of the mattresses in the hotel room.
It's an awesome fort.
Because we were kids. And so we built this fort out of like mattresses and blankets, but we made a lot of noise doing it. And also this was like 45 minutes into the party. I don't even think we were in the hotel room for an hour.
15 minutes maybe.
Maybe. I was there for about a minute and a half before.
But it was awesome.
Yeah, well, we had a great time. And so the cops came in and they like grilled all of us. And I remember, I distinctly remember Kevin's parents coming to pick him up, and Kevin admitting that he had had a drink.
And I felt so bad for Kevin. I really did. He was such an innocent bystander.
He was such an innocent bystander, and we were, yeah. And I mean, I think the thing that proves that it wasn't a very big deal is the cops let us go. We didn't get in any trouble
Officer
legally.
Whitaker let us go to dinner.
Yeah, he just let us leave. They looked at what was happening and they were like, all right, you guys are kids. We remember doing this. You're not doing anything too irresponsible. You can go home now. And the only reason I didn't get grounded and probably would have gotten in more trouble than Kevin had gotten in is they tried to call my mother and she just happened to not pick up the phone. And so,
But Mrs. Connor, I remember that night very well, and I am so sorry for any heartache I caused.
It wasn't Lauren's fault.
It was my fault. And I was out of high school, and we were just trying to have fun, and your son is an angel, and we love him so much.
Very much. Okay. All right, so this was probably my junior year of high school and Kevin's senior year. Maybe we might have been sophomores and juniors too. So it was one or the other. And Kevin brought two girls over to my house, and it was like two girls that we had crushes on, and we were all hanging out because like my house kind of had like a big backyard, and we could all just like kind of hang out. I think it was spring or summer, and we were all hanging out. It was like it started to get pretty late. I think the sun had gone down, and one of the girls got invited to a party and asked if we wanted to come. And I think it was the middle of summer, so it was like it was cool with everybody's parents, but I had kind of misled my mom about where we were going and the fact that it was a party. And she realized what was going on because it was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. And I think I had actually woken her up. She had gone to bed and I had woken her up to get her permission. And she just kind of was like, yeah, thinking it was like 8 o'clock and she had gone to bed early. But it was much later. And so she realized what was going on as we were on our way to the party and called me incredibly upset. So I was younger than everyone else and really didn't want to be the one who was going to ruin the whole party situation. So I was like kind of trying to diffuse it by arguing with my mom, but not too much in the car. And I think it got to a point where we were both sort of just yelling at each other. And I hung up and I was like, it's fine, everything's fine, it's cool. And then I think she called Kevin, and Kevin picked up and talked to my mother. And, it's just like, all right, yeah, we'll bring him home. And they drove me back, and I had to hang out by myself for the evening while they went and had fun.
When I was 19, I had my appendix out. And I remember Kevin and Willie were the first people to come visit me in the hospital. And they thought it would be funny to bring me gifts from the Dollar Tree. So they got me like a dozen things from the Dollar Tree. I can't remember what any of them were, except for the one that I still have, which is a school-type portrait photo of Martin Luther King Jr. since it was February, so it was Black History Month. And I still have that hanging in my living room.
I remember sitting with him while he was, playing bass guitar and whatnot and rocking out to whatever songs he was into at the time because he moved around a lot. Just a fun dude all around.
So, okay, and then, so another time, Kevin and I were in this like punk band together, this like punk / like heavy metal band together for a while. He played bass and I was the lead singer. And we played Battle of the Bands one year. And so for like 2 months at least, we were practicing just as much as possible, like as many hours as we could after school, like every day, just practicing. We were drilling the same 5 songs over and over again because we really wanted to go to Battle of the Bands and perform like in front of this huge crowd. We had all seen it before. We were all like really excited. And so during the show, Kevin was probably like the best showman out of all of us. And which was a great thing. And during the show, he was like playing one of his bass solos, and he started to like walk out into the audience, and he was, he had like his like sort of like Kevin face on, and as he's like doing this, like creeping out in the audience playing the bass, he yanks the cord accidentally out of the amp, and the bass just cuts out. And he just like froze for a second and then just like dived and plugged it back in and like got it right back in, before the chorus kicked in or whatever. And it was pretty impressive. And I think he got like a little bit of applause for it. And yeah, that was the best part of the show. I think we're second to last also in Battle of the Bands. So, just a fun little detail. We had a blast though.
So we started dating just after high school, the beginning of college for me, 1 year in for him. And it was actually Kevin that...
All his fault.
All his fault, that's right. It was Kevin that is, I gotta say, I don't want to say the reason that we're together, but it was through him that we really got to know each other. And we spent a lot of time hanging out with him at his house, a lot of time at Anne Arundel Community College, the 3 of us spending time together.
Riding the Impala.
We went on a ski trip.
Play
we would
Mario
go,
Party.
gosh, we would go to like Taco Bell
Yeah.
because that was like the cool place to eat in college. We just did so much together, and it was through hanging out with Kevin that I got to know Will so well. And that was 12 years ago. We've been together 12 years. Got married 5 years ago.
Don't ask me. I can't.
It'll be 6 years later this year. Yeah. So we always felt like Kevin had a part in our relationship and getting us together. So we are very grateful for him for that reason. So.
All right. So did you already record one, Andy?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't recorded one yet. So we're going to tell one story that we were both a part of, but I just want to start off by saying that Kevin was a really sweet guy, and I have a lot of very good memories of him. Some big and some small. Some when we were doing things, and some when we were just kind of hanging out, enjoying each other's company. He was a very supportive guy. And very, very meaningful. So one of these adventures, something in high school I had been questing after, was this sign that we would drive through frequently. I lived in Davidsonville, and Kevin lived in Crofton. And so in between those was a road called Bell Branch Road. And on Bell Branch Road was a sign that said no dumping. That's it, just no dumping. And that was the most amusing thing for me, and many other people as well. I mean, how could you blame it? It was comedy gold at that time. So we would drive past this sign all the time, looking at it and saying, I want that sign. I need that sign. I would like to get that sign. Somehow I want to get that sign. So we'd rendezvous at my house and we'd pick up a set of bolt cutters or a hacksaw, and we would drive up to the sign. Someone would park off. Someone else would maybe drive a little bit down the road as a kind of a lookout person, and one of us would jump out, try to hacksaw the sign. Of course it didn't work. Try to bolt cutter the sign. Of course it didn't work. So then immediately, in a panic, we'd jump back into our cars, fearful of anyone coming across our path. And so we'd go on our way and just think, how can we get this sign? How can we scheme up this sign? So I remember there was one night where we were headed from Crofton towards my house, and we had two cars of people. So the lead car stopped off in another attempt to see if we could. I think Mike Gilligan had a set of like industrial strength bolt cutters that
they had bent the screws,
right,
so we couldn't cut through it.
So we thought these for sure. It's industrial strength. Mike Gilligan, these will work. Didn't work. So I got back in the lead car and left. And
I think there was a scare too. Like I think somebody had maybe driven by one of the lookout cars, which may have been the car I was in. And so you guys booked. So I was in the car that was in the back of everybody, and so we were the last ones to drive by the sign. And it was me. I think it was me, Kevin, and maybe Molly Coombs and Omar, maybe. And Kevin says, stop. I just want to check it one more time. I just want to look at the sign. I just want to get out and check the sign. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I pulled over, and I'm just like, he's going to get back in a second. It's not going to work out. We didn't have any tools with us. So after like 2 seconds, I just hear Kevin go, so where are we going to put this thing? And I look over, and he just pulled the sign out of the ground.
He just lifted it right out of the ground.
None of us thought to try that, but apparently it just came right out of the ground.
And like a tooth. It had like the part of the sign that was visible, and then like 3 feet beneath it that you couldn't see. So he had this like 9 foot long metal sign,
with a block of concrete on one end.
It was just dirt. I don't think it was concrete, but it was dirt. But we were like, they tried to figure out how to like fit that into the car. Meanwhile, we in the lead car.
And I was driving a sedan too, so it wasn't like I could put it in the back. So it was through the front window of the car and then back, like through a back window.
Completely
diagonally. Yeah.
So in the front car, we thought everyone bailed out with us. We thought everyone had left the same time we left. So we were back at my house at this point, just kind of waiting for the other car full of people to show up. And then a few minutes later, they roll up, but they're not empty-handed. They've got this gigantic, long tooth of a sign.
I'm sure Kevin carried it in. We were probably like singing something.
Oh man, it was the most triumphant presentation ever. They were rightfully proud of themselves because we had quested after this for so long, and the simple just lifting it right out of there, just so simple. And
you hung that sign in the bathroom of your dorm for like the next 4
in the
years.
main room. Yeah, I still have that sign. He presented that to me so proud, and I was so thrilled. It was a hilarious moment, and he he got it, and then the presentation, and yeah, it was funny.
Epic.
Yeah, very epic. A small moment that could become very very epic when
Yeah.
when we embarked upon it. So yeah, a lot of fun.
I think I'm gonna cry. Gonna need a minute. Because what Kevin meant to me was a lot. Yes, he was a great boyfriend and a great person. We had a lot of fun times and a lot of silly times. But I think the best story that I can come up with that is family appropriate and encompasses how awesome he was me in college. And I was coming home for some break, and my mom wouldn't pick me up, and I was upset. So I had to ride a bus home, and Kevin knew I was upset about riding the bus home, and he mailed me his own iPod, and he said I could listen to it, and he had filled it with music that I loved. So I got to ride and listen to it and think of him, which was really awesome. And then to make it even better, on the way back to college, I missed my bus, and he drove me and spent the night, and then went back home and was like, he could go back to school. So that's one of my best stories. I don't know. I mean, there's so many other things. We made a lot of sandwiches. We watched a lot of movies. We made this really weird baby candle once, which I thought was hilarious, but some other people think it's a little creepy. I mean, he was just awesome. I still think about all the fun times we had, and I definitely share lots of stories because they come up, and I have a stellar movie that he made me that hopefully Vince will get to you guys, because that is such a great Christmas gift. I have kept it through like 5 or 6 moves. But I really love Kevin, and I'm gonna miss him.
Okay, so here's a funny story. Back near the beginning of our relationship, actually right before we started dating, when we were spending so much time at Kevin's house and hanging out with him, I went over when they were all playing video games. It was Kevin, Will, and Vince playing video games. I think I probably played with them for a little while, but in true Stephanie fashion, I laid down on the floor in front of the TV and fell asleep probably around like 8:30 or 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
like I usually do. And probably Kevin's idea, and I think he was the executor of this idea, thought it would be funny to put some mac and cheese on my face so that Brody would wake me up by licking my face. And I'm a very heavy sleeper, and so putting the mac and cheese on my face did not wake me up. Brody
The dog slobbering off your
yeah,
face.
Brody
Did the trick.
eventually did, but somehow he saw this whole thing happen and still thought that it'd be cool to
I think I egged him on a
date
little
me.
bit, I think.
So here we are.
Hi, my name is John Kevin. I met Kevin in high school at South River. I lived in Davidsonville at the time, and he was living in Crofton. And we became friends. I got involved with the theater department and joined up with the improv team eventually. So Kevin and I were on the Puppet Society together. I guess that was his senior year and my junior year. But we had a lot of mutual friends together. We who would do the local shows in the area and just spend time with each other. They were a great support system for one another. For myself growing up, I still cherish a lot of those connections and a lot of those memories that I had with these people. Had a lot of fun with Kevin. We had a really fun friend group when we were in high school. We had a diverse group of people who were into all sorts of things, but we came together with such love and such energy and understanding for each other to kind of bring whatever they wanted to the table. So I really enjoyed getting to know Kevin and having Kevin in my life. He was he was playful. I was kind of playful too, and that ability to just kind of be silly or let go of whatever you might think that someone else is looking at you or should behave this way. He was aware of that, and he could do it, but he also knew the right time to let loose and be silly, and I really appreciated that. And he had a smart sense of humor. It wasn't just always the base comedy. He knew how to read his crowd and read his audience, and was a very giving partner in improv games. He wasn't concerned with getting the biggest laugh for himself. He just wanted everyone to have a good time, and I felt that when he was hosting events over at his house, whether it was as I shared, the first fondue party I ever went to was hosted by Kevin Connor. One of the 4th of July that I went, I think it was 4th of July, where he hosted, and we lit off all sorts of fireworks in the cul-de-sac, and a big snowball fight. I remember his house was kind of the home base right next to Crofton Park. We all went in and just had a great time, and I'll always remember and appreciate that. I felt very lucky. I got a chance after Kevin's parents moved out of Maryland. I got a chance where he came and stayed at my house for a couple weeks, maybe a month or two, but I felt very, very lucky to be able to offer that opportunity because I loved Kevin so much. I was very happy to welcome him in, and I know he would have done the same for me. But Kevin had a power. To be within Kevin's presence, you felt was kind of a gift. He was very giving, and whether that came from sharing his music or technical know-how or just kind of hanging out and playing video games and just sharing each other's company, he was a very special person to be around. I remember after I broke up with my high school girlfriend senior year, and I was hanging out with him directly before that, and got a call from her. Didn't know it was coming, but went and met up with her, received the news, cried in my truck, and then went back to that house because I didn't want to go home and be by myself, and I didn't want to just not come back to this group that I had been spending time with. So I just came back, and Kevin opened the door. He knew what had happened, but he didn't say anything, and he just let me rejoin the group and sit in there and be with everyone, which is what I needed. And I thank Kevin. I thank Kevin's family. I thank Kevin, my friends, everyone. I still feel his presence, and I will cherish that. Kevin, I love you, man. Thank you.
I also went with Kevin quite a few times to Brewster's for classic car meetups. So whenever I see Brewster's, I think of Kevin. And when I found out that he passed away, that day I had to leave my house for something. And when I came home, there was actually a Brewster's napkin sitting right on our front step. And I thought, hi, Kevin. It was just really, really cool to see that sign from the universe and from Kevin. So very much appreciate that. And we will certainly miss him greatly.